Well, I kind of wanted to do a little video here and follow up on taking the car out for a little run around the block yesterday. The old 389 two-barrel just ran like a new, beautiful. It runs like a new car. Transmission shifted like a new car. And I haven't changed the fluid in this transmission. And that fluid is nice and red. I don't know if it's been changed, but it's clean, it's full. I did change the engine oil and filter before I started the engine out. I drained it out before I even got oil pressure up in it. Put new oil on it, new filter, and I'll change it before I start driving it regularly. But you can see it's still pretty much all in its original condition. I did paint up the power steering slightly and the pulley and the timing cover where the water pump and hoses attach. And I took the generator pulley off and cleaned that. The groove was rusty and I didn't want it to act like a file and wear the belt, so I bead blasted the pulley and painted it and cleaned up the generator a little bit. So that's kind of where that is. Now, kind of put things in perspective, I have a lot of friends that, come over and check the car out and stuff, and what puts the age of things in perspective on this is when this car was new, Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. He was president from 53 to 61, and this car is a 1960. So that kind of gives you an idea of the age of the car. I mean, this is pre-Kennedy. Kennedy wasn't even president yet. It was Eisenhower. And just kind of walk around here a little bit. I have the battery disconnected so the trunk light doesn't run the battery dead. I'm going to get back to work on the trunk. So it had 25,000. Try and get the light not reflecting off that. But it had 29,336 miles and 5/10 when I bought the car, and it's got 25,338 miles right on the dot now and 0/10. And the speedometer worked. There's no noises. Driving this car was like driving a brand new car. There wasn't a squeak, a rattle, a noise. Touch the accelerator and the engine just responded like immediately. And power steering works nice, no slop in the steering. Just really was nice. And the car is still running on the points and condenser that were in it from when I bought the car, that are probably close to 40 years old. I did get this, and this, I kept calling it Pentronics. I guess I noticed in my video it's called Pertronics. And I'm going to put this in before I start driving the car regularly on the road. But I just haven't got around to it yet. I'm going to try and get those other two holes in the trunk fixed today. And so anyway, yeah, I was just kind of putting in perspective. Now, the last time this car was on the road was 1979. And Jimmy Carter was president in 1979. So if that puts in perspective, if you remember the era, the end news always ended, this is day 500 and whatever of the Iranian hostage crisis. Well, that was the era when this car was last on the road, and that was quite a while ago. So we've had, since this car was on the road, we've had Ronald Reagan as president. We've had George Walker Bush as president. We had Bill Clinton as president. We had actually the first one was George H.W. Bush, and the second one was George Walker Bush from 1 to 9, I think. And we had Obama, and now we got Trump. So that kind of puts into perspective, this car was last on the road when Jimmy Carter was president, and now it's on the road again with Trump as president. Yesterday was the first day out, the 21st of January, and Trump was inaugurated on the 20th of January. So, yeah, he's officially the president. So, that kind of gives you an idea of how long this car has sat parked. It puts things in perspective. And when I was commenting that this car felt like it has square tires, it's got the tires that were on it from when I purchased the car, and they have flat spots in them, and you can feel those flat spots going down the road, and the sidewalls are really badly split and checked. So, you know, you can just anticipate a tire blowing out. And I got all the trunk stuff in the back seat there, the trunk mats and cardboard and whatnot. So I just got interrupted there for a second by somebody that dropped by. So get back to it. So today is going to be that rust hole repair and that rust hole repair. I'm going to start working on the brace here in a few minutes, and then the sheet metal will just be, there's no body lines here to deal with, so they'll both be easy repairs. And then I gotta still weld the brace to the sheet metal there and grind out the welds. And I thought I'd finish these, grind all the welds out, any little filler I need, get that sanded out, get it ready to paint it up. And I still have this to sand out. But the car is coming along, and like I say, I just wanted to kind of put into perspective. You talk about, you know, well, it was last driven in '79, but when you put a little bit of history into the era, it kind of puts it a little more in perspective. People remember events, and so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about who was president at the times in the era of this car and whatnot. Kind of think everybody can pretty much all remember presidencies. If you know, if you're my age, you totally remember. You know, I remember Ford, and I remember Nixon. I remember when I was a kid watching Nixon resign on television, and I don't really remember Kennedy. I was probably too little. My mom said I was taking a nap when he was assassinated. But I do remember Ford, and I do remember Carter. I remember Nixon because I remember him resigning vividly. And I was in school, and we used to talk about politics in school and Nixon and whatnot. So I remember all the rest of the presidents. But yeah, that kind of puts a little more to it when you talk about when the last time the car was driven. Jimmy Carter was president. So, but we're back on the road after 37 years. And like I say, the car ran and drove like a new car. I was just ecstatic the way the engine ran and the transmission shifted and the car handled. And mind you, it was only just around the block, but extremely responsive engine, transmission, just really nice shifting. And you can see here the power steering fluid. Look at that, clean as a whistle. So really, when it comes right down to it, this car is in really remarkable shape, low mileage, and just in remarkable shape for its age. And we're going to get the body work finished up and get some paint on it, and it'll be a nice summer cruiser. Get a set of tires. The tires will have the 2 1/4 white wall. Now you can see some of the cracks right there in this tire. So yeah, so I'm not going to drive. And this is one of the tires that isn't as bad as some of the others. Some of the others, when these tires were flat, you could stick your fingers into the cracks on some of the tires, and I thought they were split all the way through, and they would just blow out the crack. They were that badly split. But they hold air, and they went around the block. They didn't pop. And this is when I took it around the block. This is what was in the trunk. Absolutely nothing. So Had taken the spare tire out, the jack and all that stuff, to work on the inside of the trunk. This is the stuff that was in the trunk. Now this is the box, all the original brake shoes, wheel cylinders, all that good stuff. That's the original master cylinder, which I did rebuild. Or that's the old fuel pump I took off the engine. This is the water pump that I replaced on the engine, part of the jack, the coffee can of stuff that was in the trunk when I bought the car, the newspapers that were in the trunk are in the back seat, the brush, the jack, and the spare tire, which is a Goodyear. And this tire I don't think is a brand new tire. I think that tire has a little bit of wear on it, although it's worn pretty evenly. And but that's the spare tire out of the trunk, and that's going to go back in the trunk. I think I'm just going to buy 4 tires. I'm not going to buy 5. And so that's kind of a little update with the 60 Catalina and taking it out on the road for the first time in 37 years. It sat in a barn. If you look at my previous videos, this car sat in a barn in Gladwin, Michigan for 37 years. And when I bought it, if you look at my past videos, the radiator, the finger guard, the battery tray was missing. The engine was stuck. The fuel tank was out. The brakes were seized up. You couldn't even push the brake pedal. The master cylinder was so seized up. The parking brake cables were seized up. I replaced them. If you look at all the past videos, you'll see I went through the car mechanically, basically from bumper to bumper, to make sure it was good and roadworthy. Checked all the steering linkage, control arm bushings, went through everything. So mechanically I think it's a good car. I straightened that lower control arm on this side that was bent that you saw in the first video. So I'll get back to this rust repair, and I hope everyone enjoys my videos. I hope you really enjoy the one of the car going down the road for the first time in 37 years. I think I've watched the video about a dozen times. Jeremy videoed it. He is a good camera guy. He actually went to Parsons in New York City, so he has a little bit of photography experience. And yeah, it's coming along good. Sorry I don't have the photography experience. Sometimes I'm a little shaky, and you know, I'm just using a GoPro as my video camera, so there's really no zooming and whatnot. But it's coming along, looking good. I'm going to add this to the video. This is a 65 283 Chevrolet 283. I got the long block. It was the block and head assembly and some horse trading for doing some work for somebody. I'm one of those type that'll barter and horse trade and whatnot. So anyway, I got this 283. It was out of a 65 Chevy pickup, and it had a 3 on the tree, so it's got the manual shift flywheel on it. And I'm going to sell this engine. I set it up for a 59 Chevy because I had a parts car that I was able to pull the oil pan, the manifolds, the valve covers, the intake, the carburetor, distributor, and everything, and set it up. But I rebuilt the carburetor, so the carburetor's all rebuilt. I don't know if that shows up in there or not. The distributor I went through, it's got new vacuum advance, new cap, rotor, points condenser, the tag. I don't know if this shows up or not. The tag is on the distributor. This is under a bench I have with junk on it, and I gotta move all the junk to get the engine out. So I have still photos. I'm gonna put it on Craigslist. But the water pump is a remanufactured water pump. It's got a new fuel pump, but the fuel pump's kind of, you know, I've had this engine for probably 25 years sitting around, and I did oil the cylinders up good and and turn it over once in a while. The engine does turn over. It's complete engine, doesn't have spark plug wires. The fan is right there. I have an air cleaner for it. The fan and the air cleaner are not painted up, but this is basically a complete 283 1965 283 out of a half-ton Chevy pickup. It was a 3-speed manual engine, and I set it up for a 59 Chevy because that's what I had was parts from the 59 283. So it's got the intake, the valve covers, the oil pan timing cover, front balancer, water pump. Well, the water pump's a reman, but it's the same as what a 59 Chevy would use. It's like I say, it's got a new fuel pump in it. Doesn't look new anymore. I guess, you know, some weathering, you know, corrosion from condensation. But I will sell this engine, stand, everything. I don't have a starter motor. I don't have a dipstick tube, and I don't have spark plug wires for it. But like I say again, I do have the air filter and the fan blade, and I think it has the generator bracket on the other manifold. I don't think it has. I don't know if it has the generator bracket goes up to the generator or not. I think that's not here. But I was thinking trying to get maybe $1,000 for it. It's a Jasper remanufactured long block. I was told it was 40 over. I've not had the short block apart. I took nothing, no look at anything, so I'm selling it as is. Whereas, you know, somebody will have, I'm going to put it on Craigslist. I can lift it and put it in somebody's vehicle with the stand. You can put it in the back of a pickup or whatever and tie it down. So if anyone wants to buy a 283, it's cash only. I will not accept a check or any other form of payment other than cash. So leave a comment if you're interested in or need a 283 2-barrel set up for a 59 Chevy. The numbers on the pad, let's see if we can, they are N1531 is the numbers on the front pad. You can see the little mark on the casting is just a little pointer. It's like a square, and yeah, there you go. You can see it there. I can't see the back engine block casting numbers are on the other side, but that is the date code, I believe, right there, and that's a 02305. And like I say, this engine came out of a 1965 Chevrolet half-ton pickup with a 3-speed manual transmission in it. So if anyone out there in Tube World knows, I will not ship the motor. It is pickup. You will come to the house and pick the motor up, and I will only take cash for the motor. So, and I'm going to be pretty firm about that too. I'm not going to make any exceptions whatsoever. So just kind of throwing that out there. I've had this engine, like I say, for probably 20 or 25 years. Thinking I was going to use it in a project or something, and here it sits. It's got the Chevrolet script on the top of the valve cover. I don't know if that'll show up in there or not. But yeah, it's nice engine if somebody needs an engine. Like I say, I don't know anything other than I was told it was a Jasper manufactured that's 40 over. I have not done anything with the motor. Again, I'm going to say this again. I didn't take anything apart on it to look at it to see if it had been run or anything. It is sold as is. I just put it together with a used engine I had. I cleaned all the parts up and painted them. And so this engine is a complete engine. Thank you for watching my videos. Enjoy.